2024-2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework. Federal Executive Council approves application of $1.5 billion. Vice President Kashim Shettima arrives Beijing, China to join world leaders on high-quality Belt and Road Cooperation event.
So it's going to be a robust engagement.
World Food Day. Global community reflects on food supply chain to stamp out hunger.
Zero hunger is achievable.
Hello, this is the Network News on NTA. I'm Naja'atu Tijani. Hingino John Adams is in Lagos and will be joining us in the course of the bulletin. We begin with resolutions of the Federal Executive Council, which has approved application for $1.5 billion financing from the World Bank. This is a follow-up to the 2024-2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and the Fiscal Strategy Plan considered by the Council this Monday. State House correspondent Musbah Namwahab reports on this and other resolutions of the Council.
The first meeting since the inauguration of the Federal Executive Council, and President Bola Tinubu would chair it. The administration is firming up its strategies and roadmaps, all for better outcomes on the economy. In preparation for the 2024 fiscal year and ahead of the budget's presentation, the Council considered and agreed on the 2024-2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and the Fiscal Strategy Plan, with some assumptions as basis for the budgets.
About reference price for the price of crude oil, which is at $73.96, as well as an exchange rate of 700 naira. It was presented on the background of the commendable measures that have been taken since June in order to restore macroeconomic stability.
And to support the plan, the Council approved two financing applications. First is a $1.5 billion financing from the International Development Association, a zero-interest lending arm of the World Bank. And another is an $80 million financing from the African Development Bank.
This financing is for a project in Ekiti called the Ekiti Knowledge Zone Project, EKZ. And the EKZ is basically to support young people and their quest to take on technology, to use it, to be employed, to be trained, and to benefit from being part of the knowledge economy, being part of the technological wave.
Meanwhile, in a bid to harmonize various policies on industrial development, the Council approved the constitution of a Presidential Council on Industrial Revitalization Roadmap to be chaired by the President with 10 subcommittees.
What the committees will do will be to sit down and look at all the policies within different ministries, as well as the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. We have a lot of policies, frameworks and guidelines that should help to revitalize the industries within these different ministries and agencies.
Today, the Council was also informed of the inherited ongoing road projects totaling about 18,897 kilometers.
FEC approved the continuation of this heritage projects under the new proposal and directed the Federal Executive Council Committee of Chief of Staff, Honorable Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Honorable Minister for Works, Honorable Minister for Planning and Budget, GMD of NNPCL, the Chairman of FIROS and SSA on tax reform to meet and come up with strategies to source for the funds.
The FEC also ratified the 15-point agreement between representatives of the federal government and labor unions, with Minister of Labor indicating commitment of government to the treaty. The Council observed a minute silence in honor of a pioneer FCT minister Mobolaji Adeogun, who passed on over the weekend.
May the soul of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in perfect peace. Amen.
From the State House, Musbao and Wahab, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has sworn in and inaugurated 3 more ministers into the Federal Executive Council. State House correspondent Musbao Wahab again reports that the new ministers were sworn in just before the commencement of the meeting.
The 3 new ministers designate, screened and confirmed by the National Assembly through the Senate about 2 weeks ago were in the council chamber to join their colleagues. But then they need one more step to become bona fide members of the Federal Executive Council. Before the president, they commit themselves to service to the nation and pledge loyalty to their principal. Balarabe Abbas Lawal from Kaduna State, a replacement for the former governor Nasir El-Rufai, will serve as Minister of Environment. Jamila Bio Ibrahim from Kwara State will serve as Minister of Youth, to be supported in the ministry by Ayodele Olawande from Ondo State.
We are going to represent the youth. We are going to speak about the youth. We are going to do everything possible to make the youth feel the government.
Mr. President has charged the new members and, in fact, the continuing members to rededicate themselves to service, to be patriotic, to put all hands on deck to ensure that the mandate, especially in the 8 priority areas that he has identified, will be delivered to Nigerians.
The new Minister of Youth, Jamila Bio Ibrahim, is a daughter of a 2-time minister, Ibrahim Issa Bio.
I believe that she knows the challenges of the Nigerian youth, so I am sure that she will be able to meet the wishes and aspirations of the Nigerian youth and meet the expectation of Mr. President.
This addition brings the number of the ministers in the cabinet to 48. From the State House, Musbao and Wahab, NTA News.
Vice President Kashim Shettima has arrived Beijing, the Chinese capital, to participate in the Third Belt and Road Forum initiative, a special event put together by the Chinese government to enhance connectivity among countries across the globe. The Vice President will be joining world leaders from more than 130 countries in Africa, Asia, Europe and Latin America at the forum to deliberate on the theme, High Quality Belt and Road Cooperation, Together for Common Development and Prosperity. The Vice President is expected to avail Nigeria of the platform provided by the forum to woo investors for more developmental projects.
Event has a very special theme titled High Quality Belt and Road Cooperation, Together for Common Development and Prosperity. So we look forward to better trade and investment talks. We look forward to better implementation of sustainable development programs. We look forward to people-to-people exchanges, which are the main drives here. But apart from that, the Vice President too will also take time to engage in bilateral meetings. So it's going to be a robust engagement, wooing investors, of course, to availing investors and other participants the opportunities that abound in Nigeria.
State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports that the 2023 edition of the Belt and Road Initiative will mark the 10th anniversary of the forum, championed by the President of China, Xi Jinping, as an initiative for the global infrastructure development strategy. Meanwhile, the future of Africa's agriculture in the midst of climate crisis is engaging the minds of key players who are in Abuja for the inaugural conference on accelerating agricultural adaptation in Africa. Kelvin Ewunaye reports.
Came from across the continent, representing different strata of the agricultural sector, including smallholder farmers groups, women in agriculture, as well as civil societies in climate change space. Put together by the Pan-African Climate Change Justice Alliance and the Nigerian Climate Change Council, this conference has only one purpose: finding a way to sustain food production, as flooding is wiping farmlands across Africa, thereby endangering food security and livelihoods.
Putting together this conference will enable us identify solutions solutions that can be applicable by looking at those solutions that have worked in similar countries like Nigeria within the African context, and then try to see how we can elaborate that.
Cultural development and the challenges that flooding come along with, and we feel this is a very great opportunity that we can utilize and harness and see how we improve on the life of the communities.
Ahead of COP28, recommendations here will form part of Africa's position for the negotiation blocks on agriculture. In Abuja, Kelvin Ewonwaye, NTA News.
Another issue in agriculture which is in focus is millions of people across the continent going to bed hungry daily. And the United Nations has dedicated the 16th of October every year for member nations to reflect on the global food supply chain towards eradicating hunger. Musa Aliyu tells us more.
The United Nations report on global food supply indicates that 800 million people around the world are hungry. The irony of it is that almost 1 billion tons of food is thrown away each year.
Zero hunger is achievable. This World Food Day, I call on governments, the private sector, civil society and academia to work together to prioritize feeding the hungry, to bring ending this crisis to the top of the global agenda, and to invest in long-term solutions that provide everyone with enough to eat.
This year's World Food Day is turning attention to water, which is identified as a necessity for nutritious and healthy food. Agriculturists believe that sustainable management of water for agriculture and food production is essential to ending hunger, achieving the SDGs, and preserving it for future generations.
For this, we need both national and regional designs. Investment in innovative, efficient water management practice is vital, including in modern irrigation and storage technologies and science-based solutions to address water scarcity.
Minister of Agriculture and Food Security says government plans to harvest flood water for all year-round irrigation farming.
Assessment and operational appraisal visits to the River Basin Development Authorities has begun in earnest and will be deployed for the 2023-2024 dry season farming of the federal government in conjunction with states and local governments.
Nigeria has an estimated 267 billion cubic meters of surface water and 92 billion cubic meters of groundwater per annum, with over 200 dams, with a combined storage capacity of 34 billion cubic meters. Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
Joining me to discuss some of the issues raised in the preceding reports is the General Secretary, National Agricultural Commodities Projects, Dr. Austin Maduka. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me tonight.
The theme for World Food Day is Water is Life, Water is Food. Don't leave anyone behind. Why is water being prioritized?
Water is very important, and water is agriculture. You can't do agriculture without not having water. Water is essential, and from statistics, we have over 200 dams in Nigeria, but they are unutilized because currently the capacity we have growing food during the dry season have shown that some of these dams are not being put in proper use. And as a matter of importance, the Nigerian government should see how we can do all year-round agriculture, not only rain-fed agriculture. If we must have sufficient food for our people, and we must have food for all year-round in our reserves.
Now, before you talk about this, I was coming to that, before you talk about how we can harness floodwaters, of course, it's important that water is essential. It is important, but it has caused flooding, which has affected farmlands, food crops, and livestock. So how does Nigeria balance this so that there's harnessing of the floodwaters and, of course, making use of the dams, which are being underutilized, as you say?
Agriculture, one, is a business, and water should be seen also as a business. From experience and what we've seen globally, water can be restored, water can be stored, and these waters can be kept for a very long time. I traveled to KB some time ago, and I saw what the locals do. These communities don't have water, but annually they have a local channel where they channel all the water coming in from their whatever dam or water view, and these waters are kept in a place, and during the dry season they release these waters and they use it for irrigation. So water can be sold, water can be stored, water can also be saved for future activities. We talked about Lado Dam and the opening of dams and the devastation of water. If Nigeria can see this as a challenge and create a reservoir underground that water annually can go down there and be stored, during the dry seasons, those waters can be opened and it can be sold to commercial farmers who can now use this water to irrigate and produce more foods.
Now, the National Commodities Project agricultural project is charged with giving tools and equipment at subsidy. Now, what else is the project doing to boost farming and overcome food shortage, considering that, of course, crops and produce are at risk of being destroyed because of floods, which we've already seen that farmlands have been destroyed this year?
We at the National Agricultural Commodity Project, knowing fully well it's a private sector initiative, it is not a government-funded organization. Most of the things we do, it's coming together of associations, cooperative societies, and what have you. We've tried to see how we can form synergies among various agricultural commodity associations with the help of the government, knowing fully that government must create an enabling environment for every organization to thrive and whatever policies they put in place to work out for the society. We at the National Agricultural Commodity Project are doing a lot to see how we can form synergy and also see how we can help the government develop some of these policies. But the problem is that the government have never, seen us as partners in business, because you cannot shave a man's head in his absence. So if government is doing any program or creating any policy or introducing any program, the farmers should be on the same table, the right table, to discuss some of these problems. And that's have been our challenges all over the years, that most of these things are being discussed when we're not there. And when you introduce a lot of things, it becomes a challenge. And like the water challenges we're talking about, we have a lot of experts among us that can sit down with the government and design and draw up programs to see how we can have water storages and see how we can also preserve water and then make agriculture more acceptable by many of us who are younger people who want to go into agriculture. But because of the fear of not seeing agriculture as a way of survival, has made a lot of people to, run away from investing in agriculture.
So your final remarks, very briefly, in less than a minute.
Yeah, my final remark is to appreciate what the Honorable Minister of Agriculture is doing and the federal government is doing to see that Nigeria have food on the table. But sincerely, food is not supposed to be seen as a privilege. It's a right. Access to food is a right of every Nigerian. The government should see it as not doing us any favor by giving palliatives to people. Palliative cannot solve a problem, but let there be a standing policies that even if after the government of Senator Tinubu, there should be a program that will sustain agriculture and continue to sustain agriculture, because right from independence to date, a lot of agricultural programs have been initiated by government, but government keep on, somersaulting of policies have not, given us the right frame to see that as a nation we have gotten to where we are and where we want to be as a people, agriculture-wise.
So access to food and, of course, sustainable agricultural policies and practices. I've been speaking with the General Manager of the National Commodities Project, Dr. Austin Maduka. Thank you for being on this segment.
Thank you for always having me around you.
This is the Network News on NTA. Stay tuned for more reports after this time out. Thanks for staying tuned. We're talking election petition matters. The Court of Appeal is to adjudicate on all appeals emanating from the decisions of the election petition tribunals across the country in 2 divisions, Abuja and Lagos. The president of the court, Justice Monica Dongban Mensem, gave the directive in Abuja saying all appellate cases bordering on governorship, national and state assembly elections from State Election Tribunal judgments will now be heard in the 2 divisions instead of the 20 divisions of the court. The Abuja division will handle appeals from 19 northern states, while cases from the 17 southern states will move to Lagos. Abide by the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act and avoid scandalous speeches and inscriptions on billboards, advises INEC as campaigns heat up in the run-up to elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states. The advice was given at a strategic workshop organized by INEC in Akwanga, Nasarawa State. Mie Ogidi reports.
11 polls, an election standing on tripod, Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states, and 5 INEC national commissioners in Akwanga, Nasarawa State, taking journalists and other stakeholders on web of issues. Application of beavers, IREV, attitude of pool officials, transparency by INEC, and professional ethics by journalists made agenda. And on the off-cycle elections in Kogi, Bayelsa and Imo states, a note of warning from INEC to candidates.
A political campaign or slogan shall not be tainted with abusive language, directly or indirectly, likely to injure religious, ethnic, tribal, or sectional feelings. And the perception of politics as warfare has for long persisted, that the need for a new thinking has become imperative.
Bayelsa and Kogi are on the tributary, and the fear of flood should form part of the journalist's wisdom.
For those to be deployed to such areas, please endeavor to have your life jackets as part of your essential field gear.
Accurate and unbiased reporting is vital to ensure transparency, public trust, and the credibility of the election process.
But for that, the reporting of the media must be correct and must be ethical and not carried by any political leanings.
Apart from flood, the issue of security is also a concern for INEC. And for the candidates, that is 16 in Bayelsa, 17 in Imo, and 18 in Kogi State. And 5.4 million voters across the 3 states will decide the fate of these 51 candidates. From Akwanga in Nasarawa State, Mie Ogidi, NTA News.
The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Development, Professor Ali Pate, says hospitals across the country will be given the much-needed support for the required healthcare delivery to Nigerians, in line with the renewed hope agenda of the present administration. The minister said this while on a facility tour of the National Hospital, Abuja. Basi Itaikbang reports.
The minister, on arrival, was received by the Chief Medical Director, Professor Mohammed Raji, who lamented the poor state of equipment at the hospital, appealed for support to enable the hospital perform optimally as expected.
The National Hospital was created to be the apex hospital in the whole country, where even tertiary hospitals refer to. So unfortunately, you come to a situation where you find that it's even struggling to be a tertiary hospital. Our aim, actually, is not just to target Nigerians alone. Our aim is to even get clients from West African and Sub-Saharan countries.
Giving an overview of the visit, the minister stressed the need for medics to put patients and Nigerians at the center in defining what health problems need to be solved.
Obviously, there are many pieces of equipment that have been here for many years. Some have become obsolete, some are not functional, and I have seen similar situation in other federal teaching hospitals. So at this moment, we realize that a coherent approach to medical equipment maintenance is necessary so that we get the most value for all the public investments, so that our patients have the services that they require to prevent diseases, to diagnose diseases, but also to treat diseases.
On the issue of brain drain, the minister promised to make the working environments more conducive for medical personnel to work in Nigeria.
Give you this full answer.
NTA News.
The Nigeria Association of the Blind, Kwara State Chapter, has joined in celebrating this year's White Cane Day, requesting white cane subsidy and more job opportunities for the visually impaired by embarking on a walk in Ilorin to raise awareness about their needs with the hope that government at all levels will come to their aid. Ahmed Fulani reports.
White Cane Day was first celebrated in 1964 and established by the International Federation of the Blind. The purpose of the day is to promote the use of the white cane as a mobility aid for the blind and visually impaired people. As Kwara State Chapter of the Nigerian Association of the Blind take to the street from the State Library to Kwara State Government House in Ilorin, part of their request are respect and support from members of the public anytime they come across the visually impaired people. They also want friendly government policies that will improve the lot of the blind in Nigeria. They are asking members of the public to also stop discriminating against them as they form a part of the society.
Quite a number of people in the society are not aware of the importance of this cane. It is often being misconstrued to be something else. But it symbolizes the fact that whoever is using it has vision impairment, and as such persons should be given some amount of consideration.
Persons with visual impairments are not less human or inferior to any other person.
We are looking for empowerment for our aged people.
The road show began from Kwara State Library Complex en route Ahmadu Bello Way and terminated at Government House in Ilorin. Ahmed Fulani, NTA News.
Plans are underway to boost economic prosperity through agriculture as the federal government prepares for the partial commercialization of irrigation water supply. The Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Joseph Utsev, gave the hint while inspecting irrigation facilities in Kano State. Yahanna Hassan tells us more.
Abundant irrigation water, manpower, and cultivable land are among the features Kano State is endowed with, thus allowing for an all-year crop production. However, research has revealed underutilization of the resources, which calls for urgent action by the federal government.
We are here to assess how the performance of that dam is, to see how, if there are challenges with the dam, to see areas where the tributaries and the canals that needs visiting, we will visit them.
This is where the world is going. You let the farmers maintain some structures under the irrigation scheme, while the river basin maintains the primary and secondary structures.
A minister of the Federal Republic of a particular sector, especially water resources, visits you, certainly you stand to benefit.
The minister took a tour to the water sector of the basin, multi-purpose hall, Ruwan Kanya and Tiga Dam, seed processing factory, and an engineering design center was also inaugurated by the minister. In Kano, Yahanna Hassan, NTA News.
There is a new Postmaster General in town. Tola Odeyemi has taken over the helm of affairs at the corporate headquarters of NIPOST in Abuja. This was not before a mild drama where some members of the staff union registered their displeasure over the change of baton. Chimdima Undubisi has all the details.
The gate of the Nigerian Postal Service is now wide open. Before now, the gate was under lock and key for more than 3 hours. As the staff union, the National Union of Postal and Telecommunication Employees, protested the removal of former Postmaster General Sunday Adeboju. The new Postmaster General, who is the first female to take up this position, has assumed office.
Good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Franklin. Okay, nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
She addressed the media and the staff.
I aim to build on the commendable work of my predecessors. My aspiration is not only to solidify NIPOST status as one of the leading postal operators in the world, but also to make it a critical conduit in bridging trade, economic and social gaps of our beloved country. To make NIPOST a dependable logistics provider that can connect Nigerians, irrespective of what they do, entrepreneurs to their customers, diaspora to their relatives back home, Nigeria to the global e-commerce market and also Nigerians to their government.
She later went into a closed-door meeting with the management staff. In Abuja, Chimdema Ndubisi, NTA News.
It's time to join Hingino in Lagos for more news. Over to you, Hingino.
Thank you, Naja'atu. Small and medium enterprises play a major role in most economies, particularly in developing countries. The World Bank says SMEs represent about 90% of businesses and more than 50% of employment globally. That is why employment specialists are calling on young Nigerians not to allow themselves to be brainwashed by the false belief that white-collar jobs are more dignifying than small or medium-scale businesses. Lanre Bilei tells us more.
The perception that securing a white-collar job is better than being self-reliant, corporate employment experts say is a false societal conviction, which often influences young ones in their educational pursuit. They said some who embrace personal businesses do that because they do not have any other option left, so they call it side hustle.
Change your mindset from thinking about a job to thinking about how do I earn a sustainable livelihood. As soon as you can divorce your sense of self-worth and how you earn a livelihood from the idea of a job like this, that's the biggest first step. Because in as much as you keep on looking for a job that has been defined as society by certain things. White collar, you go to an office, you have a degree, right? And that's what we call a job. Somebody pays you on the 30th of every month. But some jobs don't even give you a sustainable livelihood.
There's a big gap between people understanding, the different categories of jobs. The world is changing, and I think parents and even young people need to start paying attention to the fact that there are other kinds of jobs.
According to these experts, side hustle can become the only hustle so long as it is legal, sustainable, and pays the bills. Alimat Bakari, who is still in school, said she will not join the job hunting queue when she graduates because she wants to continue with her side hustle, which is short film production.
Whenever I tell someone that I work as a storytelling and that I go to story hunting, they'll be like, is there even money there? You're just wasting your time. You're telling people story that does not have your time. But it is what I love to do.
Experts believe parents and society need to change the narrative about total dependence on white-collar jobs by encouraging youth to be self-empowered, as personal business is more profitable than salary-paying jobs. In Lagos, Lanre Bilei, NTA News.
The nationwide Indomie Fan Club Team Yourself Up Season 8 competition, which commenced August 2023, has come to an end with Ide Chibuike of Sacred Heart School, Lagos, emerging winner of the grand prize, while Tai Durjai was the first runner-up. Diana Ajale, who was at the grand finale in Lagos, reports that other competitors also went home with cash prizes.
An art gallery, and you may not be wrong, as each craft work exhibited in the hall comes with unique and great message. Indomie Fan Club Team Yourself Up competition is another platform initiated by Duffy Prima Foods 8 years ago to encourage creativity, recycling and bonding between children and their families. For Ide Chubike, whose pyramid craft work tagged Feeding Nigerians secured her the grand prize of 500,000 naira. It was a rare opportunity that she will not forget in a hurry.
I've never won it in my life, except this prize. Thank you, Indomie Fan Club.
Some of the judges speak on criteria that qualify the work of art.
It has to do with communication. It must have a message. It must educate. It must socialize.
So it's able to put the creativity together, and apart from that, the level of work involved is massive.
Management of Indomie Fan Club highlights the importance of the competition.
But if you watch all the craft that is there, it's made out of the waste from Indomie, either the wrapper, the carton, or the empty seasoning. So we discovered that when children, when they eat the product or when they do anything, they mess things up. So we try to see how to get a creativity out of the waste.
For us, they are all winners. Because for you to actually think of what you do with these supposedly waste products, cartons, and to bring them to light like this and form what you are seeing here today, I think they all deserve a round of applause, and that's what we are celebrating.
Aside being profit-oriented, Duffy Prima Foods, maker of Indomie noodles, a household name, has continued to put smiles on the faces of its customers and has pledged to continue to contribute positively towards unleashing the great talents among children across the country. In Lagos, Diana Ajale, NTA News.
That's our contribution from Lagos. Musa is standing by with business news after this timeout.
Thanks for being there. Let's talk some business. The National Bureau of Statistics is building capacity for the third national survey on quality and integrity of public services as part of effort to support government in rooting out corruption in Nigeria. Trainers are being prepared for the survey, which will enable data collection on prevalence of corruption and the main types as well as attitude towards it. This is with the aim of conducting trend analysis of corruption experienced by households in the country.
The training for this survey, popularly known as corruption survey, is a significant milestone in our collective effort to combat the scourge of corruption in Nigeria.
I trust you to know that in the comparison of the two studies that were conducted, what is 2016 and 2019, there was statistically significant decline in the prevalence of bribery from 32.3% to 30.2%.
The new Director General of Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency, Smedon Charles Ode, has assured of better financing for Nigeria's MSMEs with a pledge to commence capacity building towards survival of startups. This was as he takes over the mantle of leadership from Wale Adesanya at the Smedon House in Abuja.
As an agency, we're here to guide them, to show them what exactly they need in terms of tools, in terms of knowledge, in terms of coaching, in terms of resources. And I think that in the next few months, we'll start to see visible changes in the development of small businesses across.
It's a sector that I've been part of, and I will be willing to put on the table all my experience in the sector to make sure that you succeed in the assignment that you are taking on.
Now to capital market, the equities market began first weekday of trading on a bearish note. The all-share index shed 0.24% to close trading at 67,037.93 basis point. 216 million volume of securities value at 3.5 billion naira were traded in 5,965 deals. Market capitalization fell to 36.8 trillion naira. But that's it. The news continues with Najatu after the break.
International Breweries PLC, makers of Hero Lager beer, have rewarded their loyal customers and felicitated with the Obi of Onitsha, Igwe Alfred Nameka Achebe, on the occasion of his 2023 Ofala Festival. Ifeanyi Daniel Lupai reports.
Excitement spiced the air as loyal customers of International Brewery PLC, makers of Hero Lager beer, were being rewarded for their consistent patronage of the brand.
I'm excited, and I pray for maybe God to keep on growing the company, and the company to keep on growing.
Hero, I thank you very much for the wonderful rice. I really appreciate it. It's my honor. I'm very happy.
The event is the Ofala Festival of His Royal Majesty Obi of Onitsha, Igwe Alfred Achebe, where culture meets royalty. The testimony of the rich cultural heritage of the people, Anambra State Governor and other dignitaries described as one of the ways of transmitting culture from generation to generations.
Festival, one of the foremost events every year. Every year.
We've continued what our forefathers did. We've
continue it, except that we've taken it to another level.
For International Breweries PLC, sponsoring of Ofala Festival provides an avenue for implementing the corporate social responsibility policies of the organization while ensuring customers' satisfaction.
Hero is a beer for heroes, and we're also a very cultural-centric beer. And basically, we understand the uniqueness of our culture.
We've got musical artists performing, we've got some free gift items for consumers, and of course, we have lots of free drinks and beer for them.
The event was climaxed with various dance displays and stage performances in Onitsha. Ifeyinwa Daniel Okpai, NTA News.
Super Eagles win 3-2 against Mozambique in international friendly. Details on Sports Update.
The Minister of Sports Development, Senator John Eno, has called for the expansion of the Nigerian Football Federation's Congress in order to accommodate other relevant stakeholders and ensure proportional representation for the good of the game. The minister stated that football's economic, social, and cultural value to Nigeria and its citizens can't be overemphasized, as whatever needs to be done for the development of the game should be undertaken in the interest of the nation. Meanwhile, the Delta State government is set to host the 6th edition of its annual State Principals Cup. Consultant to the state government on Principals Cup, Tony Pemu, says efforts are in place to closely monitor talents that will be discovered during the games to nurture them to become world beaters. The preliminary round of the tournament kicks off on October 17th across the 25 local government areas of the state.
We are bringing in quite a number of innovations into the 6th edition so that it will be truly digital, and then henceforth every child who goes through the system is in our database and we can monitor them.
The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has led a delegation of senators to pay a condolence visit to his predecessor, the President of the 9th Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, over the death of his mother. The
President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, company of some principal officers and distinguished senators of the 10th Senate arrived Gashua Biawachakal Airport in the evening. The delegation then heads to the residence of their bereaved colleague, Senator Ahmad Ibrahim Lawan, to commiserate with him over the sad loss of his mother, Hajia Halima Ibrahim.
Please accept our condolence, and may God Almighty also console you, and thank God that she lived a good life. And I believe strongly, as we are talking now, that she's already in paradise.
Then the nation's #1 lawmaker described the deceased as having lived a fulfilled life. Let Hajia Halima Ibrahim pass on last Saturday at the age of 86 in Gashua. Abubakar Galadima Shuaibu, NTA News.
On that note, we conclude the network news on NTA. Thanks for staying with us.